My name is Rick Rodgers and I joined Candoco officially 14th of January, so not been working with them very long at all. I've been trained in physical theatre first and foremost, and not as a dancer really at all, and that led me into a circus performing career many years ago. And so I spent a lot of my time doing physical theatre, doing theme parks and interactive theatre stuff, and then I got into competition cheerleading, which isn't really very well known about in England, but is big in the United States, and people know from movies like Bring It On and Fired Up and all those sorts of things. And so when I then became disabled, I was still really into that sport, and I really wanted to find a way to be able to do the sport again as a disabled person. So I had to work really hard with a couple of people to try and reinvent cheerleading as a sport for wheelchair users, and I managed to do it. Did quite a few national performances here at competitions, and I was invited over to the States 2 years running now to go and perform at the World's competition, which is, well, it's amazing, performing in front of like 10,000 cheerleaders. So having just started with the company, I've got to learn loads of rep that's already out there, and that's been quite difficult but really fun. I think it's difficult because I'm not learning from another wheelchair user, so we're having to adapt all the movement that Dan, who I'm kind of mostly taking over, or Darren, were doing in their bodies to my bodies, and also my chair, which is quite an integral part of what I do. We're having to adapt all of the rep to work with a wheelchair, and a lot of that has been quite difficult, and there are times when I've just wanted to get out of the chair, throw it across the room and say, you try using it, because it moves so differently to a dancer on their feet, that sometimes it's hard to keep up with the speed or stuff. Stina and Pedro have got into chairs and tried things out to try and give me suggestions, or just kind of watched and like little notes all the time, building it up, making it my movements again. For instance, with set and reset, I'm taking over from Dan's role, and Dan has got such a unique movement in himself that there's not really any way that I can move. I can't move like Dan, you know. There's no way, regardless of whether or not I was on my feet or in my chair. It's such a special kind of quality that we've had to kind of work out what it was in the base, in the original, that he was then adapting to himself. So I've had to learn the phrase as it is, and then putting it back into the form, though I'm using Dan's facings most of the time, and I enter and exit where Dan would have. I'm now working from the phrase as it was and how I've adapted it to put it into the piece, so that it's me dancing and it's not just Dan puppet kind of.